Do not confuse this with treatment or mental health advice or direction. Nothing on this podcast is made to supplement or supersede the relationship and direction of your mental health caretakers. Although David Kozlowski is a licensed marriage and family therapist, he is not functioning as a certified mental health professional in this environment. And same applies to any professional who may appear on the OG Therapy podcast. Welcome to the OG Therapy.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of OG Therapy, and today I got a question to answer. This question to answer is not just from clients, not from people I've been talking to, it's actually from myself. Luckily, I know the answer to it, and I did the answer last night, so I want to share this with you. So this one I call connection is an opportunity. Let me start this over again. Confrontation. Okay, I'm tripping. Okay. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of OG Therapy, and as always, I've got some nuggets of information to share with you. Specifically, today's episode is going to help you parents out there that are having a kid that's not a little kid anymore. They're getting a little bit older, maybe in their 4th, 5th, 6th grade, and they're having confrontations or struggles socially at school, and you realize they're at that age now where you can't just call the parent, you can't immediately get involved, you can't do any sort of blocking for them or defending them. You're going to have to help them learn how to handle these combative situations, these confrontations themselves. And I'm not referring to like a physical confrontation. I'm referring to more like friend drama. So this one I call confrontation is actually an invitation for communication. So let me set the stage for you. I'm actually going to use my son and his situation, just because it just happened, made me think about it. And I've had enough people have this challenge. I thought, it'd be good to do a podcast on this. So basically what happened with my son's situation, I want you to imagine one of your kids at school, they get embarrassed, they get mocked or made fun of in front of a group of kids. But in this situation, it's very common because usually they're good friends with one of the kids in the group. So it's a typical strength in numbers type of thing. You have a bunch of kids together, they're young, they're insecure, maybe they're not that self-confident, they're more sheep than, followers versus like independent thinkers, because a lot of kids at that age, they really are followers, right? So there's nothing wrong with this. So in this particular situation, my son has a friend. This friend's been to our house, hung out with him. I'll just leave it at that. Hasn't been at the school for too long, but he's known for a little while, hung out with them. Good friend, good kid, right? Nothing's wrong with the kid. Family's great. Everything's great. Know the parents, okay? So at school, he goes to school, and my son this year in school, he's definitely been trying to find like real good friends. 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, just group of kids running around acting, really immature and stuff. And my son's starting to do a lot like what my wife did. He's starting to gravitate towards older kids, older people. He's got an older sister, so I'm not saying he's like the most mature 4th grader in the world, but he's definitely more mature and has more adult-like qualities at 4th grade than probably a lot of the kids he hangs out with and is around. Okay, so kind of gets irritated. Maybe some of you guys got kids like that. They get irritated with kids that are their own age but are acting pretty emotional and immature. So he's hanging out at recess, walking around, and he sees one of his buddies hanging out with like 4 or 5 people, a girl and like 3 guys. And so he just walks up to this kid, like I said, who's been at our house, hung out with us, know the parents real well, sweet kid. He walks up to the kid, he says, "Hey, what's up, man?" And granted, that group was kind of sitting off to the side doing their own thing, but he just walked up and said, "Hey, what's up?" And he said the kid's name, and the kid looked at him, and then one of the girls, or the girl in the group, she told my son, she goes, "Get out of here." And he looked at her, he's like, "What?" And he was pretty caught off guard because my son just doesn't say that. My son is not talking trash to other kids. He's not a trash talker type of a kid. Like if someone talks trash to him, he wants to double leg him and then armbar him or choke him out. Like he's not that type of a kid. So what happened was this girl goes, "Get out of here," and said his name. Well, he knows his girl from last year. This girl's like kind of one of the wild drama girls, like just really, he's like, "Yeah, she's drama. I've heard of this girl before." So he's like, "What?" And he looked over at his friend. He's like, "What?" He's like, and he addressed his friend again, like, "What's up?" He's like, "What's up? What are you guys doing?" And his friend looked at my son and he goes, "So sorry, man, bro code." And my son looks around like, "What?" He goes, what do you mean bro code? And one of the kids in the group, a boy, goes, he means you're not part of our group, so you can't hang out with us. So my son looked at the kid like his friend. He's not friends with the other kids. He looked at the kid like, what? And the kid looked at him and said, sorry, like we're just hanging out. He's all, sorry, we got our own group. So my son's confused. He's like, what are you guys talking about? I just came out and said, what's up to my one friend. And that's a typical thing. Kids come up, say whatever. And so he came home and I could tell something was really off. And he said, oh, my day was good except something. And so, with your kids when they're younger, as parents, we can try to press and try to force information out of our kids. And sometimes it works, but then other times it could complicate it. So our kids sometimes think, gosh, I don't know if I want to bring this up because it may cause my parents to be mad, may cause more drama than needed. Well, luckily he decided to bring it up because something weird happened today and he told me the scenario. And so what I did was, I asked him, okay, continue to tell me. I was listening to what he was saying. I validated his feelings. I'm like, man, that does suck. And obviously I was very upset and frustrated because this is a kid that's like, he's not the most tough, confident, he's not self-confident. In fact, he has a lot of insecurities. And so my son kind of was being nice to him because he felt bad for the kid because this kid has a lot of issues socially and has a lot of insecurities and has some mental health problems. So my son's been extra nice to him. So it really threw him off when this kid was acting like he's all too cool for school, right? So basically after my son, after I validated his feelings, I thanked him for, telling me what was going on. And then I said, I would like to help you with this. Would you mind if I gave you suggestions on how to help with this? He goes, yeah, please. And I'll go over the steps again in just a moment. But the reason why that's so important is because if you're forcing someone to take your help, they're most likely not going to take it that serious or reject it altogether. But when you get someone to buy in and they want your help and they think that you have the skills, the ability to help them, it's a lot better. So once I got that buy-in from him, I explained to him, say, hey, this kid's got a lot of insecurities. He doesn't have a lot of friends. Apparently he made a friend group. The kids that are in this friend group, you don't like those kids anyways. You don't care about those kids, but he is your friend. I said, so he wants to be a part of this group. This group is obviously saying we don't want any other members of our group, whatever. It's being totally rude. And in the past, kids are told to go to the principal, go to the office and report, said, hey, these kids were being rude to me. They won't let me hang out. They won't let me play a game. There's a rule at their playground that if a kid asks to play or hang out with your group, you cannot deny them. My son, I told him, do not go and tell the principal, do not tell on anyone. You're going to handle this yourself. So we went over a way to handle it. So what we came up with is when he went to school today, and I'll find out when I pick him up from school today, the plan, and we role played this when he went to school today, the plan was he was going to go up to that kid and he was going to say, hey, I need to talk to you privately for a second. And we went over different scenarios. One, if the kid's like, why would you want to talk if you pulled away? Because sometimes when you go address a kid, their friends try to protect them. Now, even though my kid's a very soft-spoken, when I say he's a nice kid, he's not a punk, right? Like if my kid was a punk, I'd be like, oh my gosh, he's just like me when I was younger, but he's not. He's actually really solid. I could see this kid's friends getting nervous because my kid just kind of has a reputation for, like, he's a nice kid, but I think all the kids know that he does the wrestling and fighting type stuff. So I said, in case he doesn't want to come alone and be alone with you and he's intimidated that you're going to hurt him or something like that, just say, hey, it's all good. I just want to talk to you for a second. I'm not like, I just want to talk to you for a second, talk to you alone. So assuming the kid goes over with them and talks to them alone, then I told my son, there's this thing we call connection before concern. It's one of our classic staple social health tools. I told my son to lead with, hey man, I just want to let you know, because you're my friend, that the way you talked to me yesterday, or actually what I told him to say is like, hey, I just want to let you know that when you talked to me yesterday, like that really surprised me and caught me off guard because we're friends. Like you've hung out at my house. And I told him to name some of the things that they've done together as a connection to remind this kid, like, I'm not some random person that just walked up to you. Like we're actually friends. And because you got a new friend group in a couple of weeks, like we're still friends. So I want him to remind him that. And that's a part of the connection. Whenever you want to address someone with a concern that you have, you always want to connect with them first, give them some sort of compliment. and remind them of your relationship, that you guys actually have a relationship. You're cool with each other. And then after that, then tell them, say, hey, and what you said to me yesterday, like friends don't talk to each other like that. I would never say that to you. If you came over and said hi to me in front of my friends and I said, hey, you can't talk to us and embarrass you like that, like it'd make you really sad. So I just want to let you know, it frustrated me and pissed me off because friends don't talk to each other like that. And then just stop and see what he says. Now, we went over 2 different options. If the kid says, oh, I'm sorry, which I believe the kid will say he's sorry. Like, I don't think this kid's a mean kid. He's a good kid. He just doesn't understand that, a lot of kids make the mistake. They want to try to hang out with a group of mean kids or punk kids just to try to not, try to be with the enemy instead of being picked on them. And you isolate some potentially really good friends over here. So I said, he probably doesn't mean to do this, but if he says he's sorry, then we role played. If he says he's sorry, just say, okay, I accept your apology. Just from now on, let's just be cool with each other. Like my son is ready to accept his apology. Now, if he gets defensive and says, well, it was just kind of weird. You just kind of walked up to us and like you were wanting to hang out with us and like you weren't invited. So in that scenario, I coach my son how to handle it this way. Say, well, that's not the point. The point is you didn't have to talk to me like that. If you didn't want me to hang out, all you could have said was like, hey, we're actually in the middle of doing something right now. Like maybe we could hang out later or at next recess. And my son actually believed that. I was like, yeah, it would have been totally cool if he would have said that. I'm like, okay, cool, no worries. Like it's all good, right? And so if he says, like, if he tries to defend what he did, my son's coached him to be like, hey, that's not the point. This is a respect thing, communication thing. The third one, if he sits there and he goes, what do you want me to say? Then my son will say, well, friends usually would apologize. They made a mistake. So are you going to apologize to me? And if the kid says, well, no, I didn't do anything wrong, then I coach my son to tell him, okay, well, if you're not going to apologize for being rude and disrespectful to me, then we're not going to be friends anymore. So have a good day. And to turn around and walk away. So I'm going to go over these steps again really quick so you guys have it, but I want to summarize basically what I just said. My son's 10 years old. He's at the age now where he's still young enough where I could talk to the coaches about every problem he has, talk to other parents about every problem that he has with them. And I do talk to his coaches and share some things that, could help them be a better coach with him if they're interested or if they want to do that. But sometimes coaches don't care. So that's their thing. And sometimes other parents get protective and defensive of their kids. So I'm teaching him how to handle this himself. And on top of it, you only get better at things you practice. So if you get better at avoiding confrontation, avoiding combative energy, avoiding these types of situations, then you're going to feel down on yourself, insecure, or you may get angry and bitter. And you may have a lot of trust issues and develop some unnecessary abandonment issues. And everyone that wants to be your friend in the future has to through some huge, long process just to get the right to be your friend. It can make you really complicated in social situations. And obviously I don't want that for my son or for any child out there. So in this whole entire thing, there's a couple standard things that I teach all my parents I work with. It's best to prepare your kid and teach them social competency than to jump in and thwart their progress socially by telling them what to do or just going and doing it. That's why the steps I'm about to share with you, and each one of these steps, you're building confidence in your child, you're reinforcing that you're supporting them, you're helping them, and you're not going to make it about you, and you're not going to try to take this in all your control. Some kids may want you to get involved. Some kids may want you to do these things for them. And depending upon their age, you might get involved a little bit, but I encourage and challenge all you parents out there to try to find a way that you can give some of this to your kids. Let your kids run point on this project. Let them be the one that has to be out in front with you playing the backup role. So the first step is have your kid give the whole story without showing a lot of personal anger towards the kid who caused your child to feel embarrassed or disrespected. I failed at that yesterday. I didn't do that very well. Right when my kid said this, I was like, oh, I could tell something's wrong with him. And when he said this, I saw his self-confidence go down and felt horrible. And I just imagined him being embarrassed in front of a bunch of kids, which, by the way, in my opinion, I know some of these kids, they're punk kids. My son has no desire to hang out with these kids. He's super athletic and he's got all this stuff going for him. It's these aren't kids that he wants to hang out with anyways, but it is his one friend, right? So I want him to vent it out. I want him to share it without me asking a bunch of questions. If I would have asked a bunch of questions while he's telling me the story, it would have frustrated and confused him and would have shut him down. He probably wouldn't have talked anymore about it. So step 2, validate all of his feelings, all your kid's feelings, before you go on to solve or correct the problem. So the first step, you're listening to it. You're listening. You might, ask probing questions like, okay, so what happened next? Like, just kind of help them keep the story together. And then after that, you just want to validate everything that your kid says. Just tell them, say, hey, I totally get it. Don't tell them long stories about stuff that happened to you and your kid. A lot of times parents make the mistake and say, oh gosh, this reminds me of what happened to me. So when I was a kid, the same thing happened to me. And then a parent, that story can go on for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. Before you know it, your kid's sitting there going, yeah, I really just want to talk about me. I don't really care about your story from when you're in 5th grade. So validate your kid's story, talk to them, don't try to correct them or try to solve the problem. Step 3, thank them for trusting you with the information that you wouldn't freak out or get angry. So I didn't do step 1 very well. At first I got pissed off and I got angry and I was like, what? I'm like, those kids are punks. And then I stopped myself and realized I wasn't even doing what I tell people to do. So I took a deep breath and I said, son, I apologize. Like, I'm just angry because I saw you get frustrated. However, I'm going to stop being angry. You want to know why? He goes, why? Because you should handle it. See, if I'm really fearful and scared of something that's really bad, it could cause you to be scared of it. But I actually know that you can handle it. And I do this for a living. I can help you handle it. So step 3, like I said, don't freak out. Don't let your anger spill over. Step 4, come up with a plan based upon the details of the situation where you can find a way for your child to talk to the other kid one-on-one. This is very important. Face-to-face, one-on-one communication. If this is something where they're old enough and they can FaceTime each other, that's fine. You can FaceTime. The only thing I don't like about FaceTime is that can be recorded. It can be screen recorded. And texts can be screenshot as well. That's why I like the old school face-to-face, one-on-one. A lot of kids that I have been a therapist for, they avoid this one at all costs. They do not want to communicate face-to-face. So in those cases, I will help them construct a text using the connection before concern. So the connection before concern, just to clarify that for you guys, you want to give some sort of reminder to the person that you have an issue with, that you are friends, that you do respect them, some sort of compliment about your connection, your relationship. And then the second part, then you want to share your concern. Then you say, hey, because we're such good friends, I just had to tell you, like, that really hurt my feelings, or that really pissed me off what you did the other day. And that wasn't cool. Then you stop and you put a period on it. You make the statement. Let the other person decide how they want to handle it. If you ask them a question like, so like, are you going to say sorry? Or so what are you going to do? Like, if you just ask a question off the jump, it's putting pressure on that person. The best thing to do is say what you're feeling, mic drop, and just stand there and see how they respond. Then it's good to always role play with your kids back and forth. You pretend to be the other kid and you pretend them to say what they want to say. I like to flip it around too. I like to say, hey, I'm going to pretend to be you because I'm experienced this, and I'm going to have my child then role play to be that kid and role play to be like angry and pissed off, and also role play be like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. So if you have your kid play the role of the other kid and they watch you on how you give advice, and not how you give advice, but how you handle it as if you were, your actual child, it allows them to see both sides of the coin. Okay. So once you figure out what is the best situation to approach it, just take into consideration face-to-face is best. If not, second, it's texting. And when you're texting, you want to make sure it's a text that could be screenshot and sent to the world, and it'll make your son or make your daughter look good. Totally fine. Nothing controversial, not backbiting, not calling the kid out, not making fun of them, anything like that. Okay. Then the last one, coach your kid how to address the problem with the kid using the social health connection before concern tool. So even though I said that a little bit earlier, the last part of that is getting them to practice how to say something nice to the person, how to remind that person of the friendship, and then make a statement about the problem, the concern. After you state the problem, concern, then wrap it up with, hey, because we're good friends, I thought it was best to come tell you these things. If I was mad at you and I hated you, I wouldn't even come talk to you about it. I'm trying to give you like the benefit of the doubt that like you didn't mean to do it. You give a good faith gesture. You're giving them the opportunity to totally be okay with accepting responsibility and saying they're sorry. But if they're not going to say they're sorry, you need to role play that with your kid as well, so that his or her response can be measured and can handle it really well. If a kid is rude back to your child and your child thought they were just going to apologize, and your child may get pissed off, upset, well then fine, well then I hate you too, and say a bunch of emotional things. But if you prepare your child well for this, which I know you guys can do, every single buddy listening to this podcast can do this because you've watched other podcasts, you've listened to this podcast, you've done self-help books. This is something you just want to slow it down a little bit. But if you follow these steps, just prepping your kid, getting them ready to take your advice and allow them to coach you, you can push away any type of past memories that your child thought that you might freak out or maybe you gave them bad advice. Well, guys, I'm very confident that if you follow these steps, if you work with your kid, not only will your kid get better at this, you'll get better at this too. You might be a parent that this may not come naturally to. You might be a parent that this is something that you're so angry and pissed off, you want fairness, you want revenge, you want to go to the principal's office. You have all the right to do that. I'm not telling you can't do those things. I'm telling you those things might be more for you than your kid. If you want to help your kid, you want to help your kid be more socially conscious, have higher social capabilities, learn how to deal with these combative energies and potential drama situations with having better communication. Then after the communication is done better, your kid's confidence, if the kid is still being rude, then your kid can actually handle the rudeness because they chose to break up or to be over this relationship. I said break up because sometimes this happens in, kids that are dating in middle school, whatever. But for the most part, if this is with a friend, it can kind of feel like a breakup of the friendship. So you want your kid to feel, hey, listen, I did my part. I kept my hands clean. I knew that I was cool. I wasn't coming out of pocket being disrespectful. And because they still wouldn't be cool with me, I'm choosing to end the friendship. Just like a breakup. Whoever ends the breakup is in more control and feels more content about it. Even if it wasn't even if they should have been the one that got broken up with, whoever initiates the conversation does have more control. So as always, you guys, thank you for spending time here with OG Therapy. Follow us on all of our social media handles. And until next time, be cool.